The journey toward unwavering self-assurance does not begin with a loud declaration to the world, but rather with a quiet, persistent whisper to oneself. We often mistake confidence for a finished product, a destination where fear no longer exists, and where every word we speak is laced with certainty. But the truth is far more profound. Confidence is a muscle, and like any muscle, it requires the tension of resistance to grow. If you are standing here today feeling as though your voice is small or your steps are hesitant, know that you are not lacking a trait. You are simply at the beginning of a practice. The foundation of all self-assurance is the radical acceptance of your current starting point. We spend so much of our lives waiting to feel ready. We wait for the anxiety to dissipate, for the expertise to become absolute, or for the perfect moment to present itself. But waiting is the silent killer of confidence. Action is its only oxygen. To build a tower of self-assurance, you must be willing to lay the first brick while your hands are still shaking. It is in the very act of doing the thing you fear that the fear loses its power over you. Consider the nature of a seed. It does not wait to feel like a tree before it pushes through the dark, heavy soil. It pushes because it must, because the life within it demands expression, and it is through the struggle against the earth that it develops the strength to stand against the wind. You are no different. Your confidence is not found in the absence of doubt, but in the decision to move despite it. We must also address the internal dialogue that shapes our reality. For many of us, the harshest critic we will ever face is the one living between our own ears. We allow ourselves to say things to our reflection that we would never dream of saying to a friend or even a stranger. This internal sabotage creates a leak in our reservoir of self-assurance. You cannot build a magnificent structure on a foundation of self-disdain. Building confidence requires a disciplined reparenting of your own mind. It requires you to become a guardian of your thoughts, catching the "I can't" and the "I'm not enough" before they take root and become beliefs. Self-assurance is essentially the reputation you have with yourself. Every time you make a small promise to yourself and keep it, your confidence grows. Every time you show up for your workout, finish the page you promised to write, or stand up for a value you hold dear, you are casting a vote for the person you wish to become. It is the accumulation of these tiny, private victories that eventually creates the public aura of confidence. You do not need a stage to practice self-assurance. You need the mundane moments of your daily life. It is about how you carry yourself when no one is watching, how you speak to yourself when you fail, and how quickly you choose to get back up. The world will often try to define your worth based on external metrics, your titles, your bank account, or the approval of others. But true self-assurance is an inside-out job. If your confidence is built on the shifting sands of external validation, it will collapse the moment the wind changes direction. To be truly self-assured is to be anchored in a sense of intrinsic value that is independent of your performance or the opinions of the crowd. This does not mean you become arrogant or closed off to growth. Rather, it means that your self is no longer on trial. You are free to fail because your failure does not define you. You are free to try because your worth is not at stake. Imagine the freedom that comes when you stop asking for permission to exist. Imagine the power you reclaim when you realize that you are the only one who can give yourself the green light to pursue your dreams. This is the first step, realizing that the keys to the kingdom of confidence have been in your pocket the entire time. You have been looking outward for a sign, for a mentor, or for a miracle, when the miracle is the fact that you are here, breathing, with the capacity to choose a new thought and a new action in this very moment. As we move forward, we must understand that self-assurance is also about the courage to be seen in our imperfection. There is a toxic myth that confidence is synonymous with perfection. In reality, perfectionism is just a high-end version of fear. It is a shield we carry to protect ourselves from the judgment of others. But shields are heavy, and they prevent us from moving with agility and grace. True confidence is the ability to drop the shield. It is the willingness to be vulnerable, to say, "I don't know, I was wrong," or "I need help." When you stop trying to be perfect, you become authentic, and authenticity is the most magnetic form of confidence there is. People are not drawn to those who have no flaws. They are drawn to those who are comfortable with their flaws. There is a deep, resonant power in a person who is at home in their own skin, who does not feel the need to perform or to prove their worth. This comfort comes from the realization that you are already enough, not because of what you have achieved, but because of who you are. This is not a passive enoughness that leads to stagnation, but a vibrant enoughness that provides the security needed to take massive risks. When you know you are okay at the core, you can afford to lose a battle here and there. You can afford to be laughed at. You can afford to fall flat on your face because you know that the core of your being remains unshaken. This is the beginning of your transformation. This is the moment you stop being a spectator in your own life and start becoming the architect of your own destiny. Once the internal foundation is laid and the dialogue with yourself has shifted from criticism to curiosity, the next phase of building self-assurance moves into the arena of action and interaction. Confidence is not a static state of being. It is a dynamic relationship between you and the world around you. To solidify your self-assurance, you must begin to master the physical and social mechanics that project strength and invite respect. This begins with the way you inhabit your own body. There is a powerful feedback loop between the mind and the physique. If you slouch, hide your hands, and avoid eye contact, you are sending a signal to your nervous system that you are in a state of retreat or submission. Conversely, by simply adjusting your posture standing tall, pulling your shoulders back, and occupying your space, you signal to your brain that you are safe, capable, and present. This is not about vanity or dominance. It is about presence. When you walk into a room, do not wait for someone to welcome you before you feel you belong there. Carry the belonging with you. Your body language is the first conversation you have with any person you meet, and it is the most important conversation you have with your own chemistry. Research shows that changing your physical stance can actually lower cortisol and increase testosterone, physically equipping you to handle stress with more composure. This is the outside-in approach to confidence, where you use your physical vessel to lead your mind into a state of certainty. Beyond the physical, building confidence requires a mastery of communication and the setting of boundaries. A self-assured person understands that their time, energy, and voice have value. Many of us struggle with confidence because we have become people pleasers, constantly looking for the external nod of approval to tell us we are doing the right thing. But every time you say yes when your soul is screaming no, you chip away at your self-respect. Confidence grows in the soil of integrity, specifically the integrity of your boundaries. Learning to say no with grace and without over-explanation is one of the highest forms of self-assurance. It demonstrates that you trust your own judgment and that you do not require the world to agree with your priorities. When you speak, speak with intention. Avoid the minimizers that we often use to soften our presence words, like just, actually, or I'm sorry, but. These linguistic crutches are often hidden apologies for taking up space. You do not need to apologize for having an opinion or for requesting what you need. A confident communicator is not the one who talks the most, but the one who listens deeply and speaks with a clarity that reflects their internal alignment. When you stop seeking to be liked and start seeking to be authentic, your confidence becomes an immovable force. In the social sphere, we must also confront the paralyzing fear of judgment. We often hold ourselves back because we imagine a spotlight is shining on our every flaw, when in reality, most people are too preoccupied with their own insecurities to notice ours. This realization is incredibly liberating. Once you accept that you cannot control the perceptions of others, you stop being a prisoner to them. Self-assurance is the decision to stop living your life as if it were a performance for a jury that isn't even watching. It is about shifting your focus from, how do they see me, to, how do I see them? Or better yet, how can I contribute to this moment? When you focus on being of service or being present, the self-consciousness that fuels social anxiety begins to evaporate. Confidence is found in the transition from self-absorption to self-extension. If you enter a social situation with the intent to make others feel seen and heard, your own confidence will naturally rise because you are no longer focused on your own perceived inadequacies. You become a leader of the energy in the room rather than a victim of it. Furthermore, the company you keep plays a pivotal role in the architecture of your self-assurance. You cannot expect to build a skyscraper of confidence if you are surrounded by people who are constantly trying to pull the foundation out from under you. We are social creatures, and the vibrational average of our inner circle matters. To be truly self-assured, you must have the courage to audit your relationships. Surround yourself with individuals who challenge you, who hold you to a higher standard, and who celebrate your victories as if they were their own. A confident person is not threatened by the success of others. They are inspired by it. If you find yourself in environments where your growth is met with cynicism or where your ambition is labeled as arrogance, you must have the strength to walk away. Protecting your environment is a key step in protecting your self-belief. You are the gardener of your own potential, and that means pulling the weeds of negativity and planting yourself in the sunlight of encouragement and constructive challenge. Finally, we must look at the concept of competence as a pillar of confidence. While mindset is essential, there is no substitute for the quiet certainty that comes from knowing your craft. Whether it is your career, a hobby, or a life skill, the more competent you become, the more your confidence becomes unfakeable. This is the grit work of self-assurance. The hours of practice, the study, the repetition, and the willingness to be a clumsy beginner before you can be a confident master. We often want the reward of confidence without the labor of preparation. But true self-assurance is the byproduct of a job well done. It is the feeling of walking into a situation and knowing that you have done the work, that you have faced the difficulties, and that you have the tools to handle whatever arises. This isn't about being the best in the world. It's about being your best. It's about the self-respect that comes from knowing you didn't take the easy way out. Every time you push through a difficult learning curve, you are building a reservoir of evidence that proves you are capable. When the voice of doubt creeps in, you can point to that evidence and say, I have done hard things before and I can do them again. This internal resume of resilience is what allows you to stand firm when the storms of life hit. You aren't just hoping things go well, you are trusting in your ability to navigate them if they don't. As we move into the final and most enduring phase of building self-assurance, we must confront the reality that confidence is not a destination where you arrive and never have to leave. It is a continuous cycle of renewal, especially in the face of failure and the inevitable passage of time. The true test of self-assurance is not how you carry yourself when everything is going right, but how you reconstruct yourself when everything goes wrong. We often view failure as a verdict on our character, a final stamp of inadequacy that justifies our deepest insecurities. But the self-assured heart views failure differently. To the confident soul, failure is not the opposite of success. It is a vital component of it. It is the data we need to refine our approach, the fire that tempers our steel, and the proof that we were brave enough to enter the arena in the first place. If you are not failing occasionally, you are playing a game that is far too small for your potential. To build a life of lasting self-assurance, you must develop a friendship with the messy middle, that uncomfortable space where you have left the safety of the shore but have not yet reached your new destination. This is where most people quit, and it is where the few who possess true confidence are forged. Resilience is the ultimate expression of self-assurance. It is the ability to look at a setback, feel the sting of disappointment, and yet refuse to let it dictate your future. Think of the most confident people you know. They are rarely the ones who have lived a charmed life without obstacles. Usually, they are the ones who have been broken and have had the audacity to put themselves back together. This process of kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold, is a perfect metaphor for the human spirit. The cracks in your history, the moments where you felt your confidence shatter, do not make you less valuable. When you fill those cracks with the gold of self-compassion and perseverance, you become more beautiful and more resilient than you were before the break. You realize that your value is not a fragile thing that can be stolen by a bad day or a harsh critic. It is something inherent, something that survives the storm. This unshakable quality comes from the knowledge that even if you lose everything, you still possess the capacity to build it all back. That is the highest form of confidence, not trusting that you won't fall, but trusting that you know how to get back up. Moreover, we must understand that the journey of self-assurance is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be days when the old voices of doubt return with a vengeance. There will be mornings when you wake up and the reflection in the mirror feels like a stranger. In those moments, confidence is not a feeling, it is a decision. It is the commitment to the habits and the mindset you have built, even when the emotional high of inspiration has faded. Self-assurance is maintained through the consistency of your rituals. It is the daily discipline of managing your energy, guarding your focus, and reaffirming your purpose. You must become your own greatest advocate during the quiet seasons when no one is cheering for you. This requires a profound level of self-trust. You have to trust the version of yourself that set the goals more than the version of yourself that wants to give up. As you age and as your life circumstances change, your confidence will need to evolve. The self-assurance of youth is often built on potential and energy, but the self-assurance of maturity is built on wisdom and experience. Embrace this evolution. Allow your confidence to deepen into a quiet, grounded strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. As we reach the summit of this journey, we must ask ourselves, what is the purpose of all this self-assurance? If we build confidence only to serve our own egos or to accumulate more possessions, it will eventually feel hollow. True, life-changing confidence is that which is directed toward a purpose larger than yourself. When you are self-assured, you stop being so preoccupied with your own reflection that you can finally see the needs of others. Confidence gives you the power to be a voice for the voiceless, a leader for the lost, and a source of strength for those who are still struggling with their own doubts. The legacy of a confident life is not measured in the accolades you receive, but in the people you empower. When you stand tall in your truth, you unconsciously give everyone around you permission to do the same. Your self-assurance becomes a lighthouse, cutting through the fog of other people's fears. This is the ultimate why behind the work of self-improvement. You are building your confidence so that you can fulfill your unique contribution to the world, so that you can show up fully for your family, your community, and your calling. We must also recognize that self-assurance allows us to live with a spirit of abundance rather than scarcity. A person who lacks confidence is often defensive, competitive in a toxic way, and afraid of sharing. They feel that if someone else wins, they lose. But when you are truly self-assured, you realize that there is plenty of room at the top. You can afford to be generous with your praise, your time, and your knowledge, because you know that your light does not dim when you light another person's candle. This generosity is, in itself, an act of confidence. It says to the world, I am so secure in who I am that I don't need to hoard my advantages. This mindset creates a life of rich connections and profound influence. You become a person of substance, someone whose presence is felt long after they have left the room. In conclusion, the steps to self-assurance, from the internal dialogue and the physical presence to the mastery of skills and the resilience through failure, all lead back to a single, powerful truth. You are the author of your own story. You have the pen in your hand right now. The past chapters may have been written by your circumstances, your upbringing, or your mistakes, but the next chapter is yours to write. Do not let the fear of being not enough hold the pen. Do not let the ghost of who you used to be dictate who you are becoming. Choose to believe in the version of yourself that is capable of greatness. Choose to take the small, terrifying steps that lead to big, beautiful changes. Building confidence is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong love affair with your own potential. It is the bravest thing you will ever do, and it is the most rewarding. So, go out into the world and occupy your space. Speak your truth. Embrace your flaws. Keep your promises to yourself. And above all, remember that the world does not need a perfect version of you. It needs the real, confident, and courageous version of you. The journey starts today with the next breath you take and the next decision you make. Stand up, step forward, and begin.